great privileges that I've had of telling these stories is that I discovered about a year and a half after I got started telling the SandStories that they required no translation. And we got a chance to perform in Detroit, Michigan for a group of auto workers that had come from Asia, from Korea, from Japan, from China, Taiwan. And this was the story we told. We told God's love story of how He created us, how He loved us, how He took on human flesh and came and lived among us. And then the best part of the story of all is that God didn't just feel what we felt. He didn't just experience the difficulties that we experience, but then He told us something amazing. Because you see, this little baby didn't remain a little baby. Baby Jesus grew up to be the man Jesus. And Jesus taught. And He told people, He said, I am one with the Father. I am divinity here on earth. And the reason I'm here is that I want to set people free from the penalty that they've incurred with all of those things that they've done wrong. Because you see, if you go back, way back in the story, all the way back to Adam and Eve, you realize that when Adam and Eve pulled away from God, that all of the things that came in separated us from God. Our disobedience, our rebellion, our anger, all of the different things that separate us from each other. And God said, I want to bring those things together again. But there's only one way to do it. And that is that somebody has to pay the penalty for those things that have been done wrong. And so, that's what Jesus did. He came and He said, I want to be the one to pay for your wrongs. I want to be the one to sacrifice myself so that you can be forgiven. As a matter of fact, Jesus promised us three things. He said because of His sacrificial death, we could not only be forgiven for the things that we've done wrong, but He says, I will give you a new power to be able to live a better life here on earth. And then last of all, He said, I will give you the assurance of life in heaven forever. Wow. That's incredible. What a story. What a fantastic, amazing story. That God Himself would live here on earth and then sacrifice Himself so that we could be set free from the penalty of our sin, from the bondage of our sin, and eventually from the presence, and to be able to live forever in a place called heaven. One of Jesus' disciples, even after Christ was crucified, didn't believe it. Because Jesus said, the way I'm going to prove that this is actually me, God in the flesh, is I'm not going to stay dead. I'm going to come back to life. And so there's a lot of good religious leaders around the world. But you know what? You can go to their tombs. You can visit their graves. You can see where they're buried. But Jesus said, I am not just another ordinary man. I am the only way to the Father. And so you can go to Jesus' tomb today, but it's empty. And after His resurrection, He came to Thomas the doubter. And Thomas had said, you know, I'm not going to believe that He came back from the dead unless I see the wound in His hand where they pierced Him when they nailed Him on the cross, and the hole in His side where they thrust the spear. So after He rose from the dead, Jesus appeared to Thomas the doubter, and He held out His hand. And He said, Thomas, don't doubt, but believe. If I could wish for one thing tonight for you, is that you would understand that God is a God of love, and that you would receive His love through Jesus Christ. Let me close with a story that's the dearest to my heart. I've had the opportunity to tell this story literally around the world. It's a story that communicates more deeply than any other story the love of God.